Hi, so my name is Paul Yap, and I am currently the Careers and Universities Advisor at the Bangkok Patna School. And I've been asked to give this talk for camp about letters of recommendation. I've been been a university's counselor for the last 8 years, some of them at British Columbia, and last year here in Bangkok. And I'm always happy to kind of do things for camp or work with camp to ensure that everybody gets the right information in terms of admissions to kind of anywhere else in the world aside from the Philippines. So today, I hope to be able to share kind of how to choose a reference writer for you guys. Also, what a good recommendation letter should have, the differences between recommendation letters, as well as how it's viewed by admissions counselors around the world. I know that sounds like a lot in 10 minutes, and obviously quite it is, but I'm going to try to impart as much knowledge as I can about it. So let's get right into it. So choosing the right reference writer. Most important thing about this is choose a teacher you feel knows you best. I know that's a really broad statement, but it's really, really important for you to choose a teacher you feel knows you best, and not just in the subject that you feel you're doing the best at. Some admissions officers and counselors used to tell me that it's great to actually see a reference from a subject a student has not necessarily done the best in, but rather has progressed the most in. It's those kinds of stories that universities and admissions officers like to see. They want to see your development as an individual. A reference is about a story, is about an image. It's supposed to support you as an applicant. It's supposed to talk a lot about kind of the things outside of the academics, but also in support of your academics. A lot of the time, you're going to hear a lot of talks about kind of making sure that you find the best fit, best match, and making sure that you're finding the right balance between those different things. So finding the right reference writer is a teacher who is going to probably talk about not just you as a person in the classroom, but also the other things that you might do, especially if it comes in and talks about the other things that you do. So it's really important for you to choose the right reference writer to make sure that this happens. Later on, I'll be talking about kind of the nitty gritty in terms of that, but this is a really important idea to have first and foremost in your mind. So choose a teacher you feel knows you best. A good recommendation letter should have the following different things. How long and in what capacity the teachers know you. If the teacher knows you outside of the classroom in terms of your extracurriculars, in terms of maybe them knowing that you do all these outreach projects, things that you do participate in outside the class, maybe Kumon, maybe Taekwondo or anything like that, that should probably be in it. So it's really important for you to have to get to know your teacher. For my students, they have this little form that they fill in so that the teacher automatically knows kind of what else they've done with the students. But for local schools there in the Philippines, it's a little bit different. So there are things that you need to be adding. So really think about how you might want to do that. Typically, it also talks about how you performed in class. What things have you done? What achievements you've really developed because of the class and things like that. This is an important question. This third question here is, how is the class different when you aren't around? It's a really big thing to kind of say, well, when the student's not around, I actually feel it. As a teacher, and both in the classroom and outside the classroom, I know when a student is around because the atmosphere changes. So trying to see how you think or how your teacher feels is the class is different when you're absent is really important for you to do. Now, this last portion, I'm just going to use the example right away, supporting evidence of why your teacher thinks so highly of you. This is an example I kind of just wrote out for this purpose. Bernard is a wonderful student in my class. And typically, a lot of Filipino teachers will just stop right there. Okay? You have to then kind of give them all these other things to kind of help work with you. Okay, remind your teachers. Remember that investigative project I did with you, or that independent kind of writing I did for you. That will help them or jog their memory in terms of how to develop their recommendation letter for you. A lot of the time, teachers, because of what happens in local schools there, where there are 40 people in the class, sometimes they teach 6 or 7 classes. That's about 240 uh, 300 students, they don't remember everybody. It's a rather sad thing, but it's something for you to keep in mind, that this is how you can help your teacher remember those different things. So think about it. Now, the difference between the different kind of references. This is a slide I normally give to teachers when they're writing references or think about. Okay, where the UK, Ireland, and Singapore, there's a strong focus on academics, and therefore you're going to see a lot of stuff there just focusing on academics. For those kind of applying to the US, Canada, Netherlands, the Philippines, there's a good balance between those two different things. Okay, now this slide is a good reference for you as well, because if you are really applying for different universities or different countries in the world, these are the things that you should be talking about as well in terms of your essays. And I know that somebody in camp is probably going to talk about how to write essays and things like this, but it actually follows the same idea as reference writing. Hopefully that kind of helps. Now, how many actual references does a student typically need? Typically, each student needs one. One reference is something that is required, especially for the UK, the Netherlands, Singapore, Japan, Hong Kong. One reference. Okay, depending on kind of where you are applying in the world, some universities may need specific subject teachers to write. Singapore, for instance, kind of requires math or science teacher to write one. Sometimes there's an English component. I know Hong Kong requires specific kind of groups, or sorry, specific core subjects. So that really depends on the definition as well. In terms of the US, you probably need at least two, one from a teacher, one from a guidance counselor. Now, hopefully your guidance counselor has been following you for the last 4 years when you get to this point. If they're not, then you need to sit down and have a conversation with them. Kind of tell them, hi, so I'm applying for the US, and this is what I need probably in my reference, the form that I'm going to give you. Okay. A lot of students come to me asking, so Mr. Yap, do I need to get an additional reference? 9 times out of 10, I'm going to tell you no. Additional references that are not required, or optional references that are not required by a university, are usually frowned upon by admissions officers. One, because they have to read it, and that's a lot of work, especially if they have to read about 10,000 applications from about November till January. It isn't easy for them to do that. So keep it succinct. They also kind of say, but it's going to be from a government official. So what? Unless you've actually worked on that person's staff and they've seen you for more than 2 or 3 times over the last 3 years, it probably won't help. Some of you might also say, but they're an alumni of that institution. Again, it doesn't matter. Unless you have proven that you've worked with them and they can add to your application, an additional or optional reference is not a really big thing for a US application. Think if you really need it. Now, there are some institutions that say you have to get your pastor, your coach, or an outside source outside of the school. That is probably required. That's something you should get. Okay? Because they require it, think about who that might be. Have a conversation with your guidance counselor as well in terms of how that might be shaped. Sometimes, especially some of the more Catholic institutions, will probably ask for a priest to write a reference about you. That's actually a pretty good thing. So just have a time and think about that. So, how is a letter of recommendation normally reviewed? Well, that really depends on the kind of institution. Remember, I was going back to it earlier in terms of kind of how many references you might need. Now, in terms of, well, UK or highly academic institutions, remember, one teacher rec, one student essay, all to create this image of, well, brain in the chair. The UK especially is looking for just that. So when a teacher recommendation letter comes, that teacher recommendation is only focusing on your academic ability. Yes, you may be a wonderful team captain for the badminton team, or you've had so many contributions outside of the classroom. Doesn't matter to them. Your teacher writes about your ability to do research, your ability to collaborate with others, your ability to do the academic work. Your student essay then does those 3 things, And once those come together, you are now a brain in a chair that they want to accept, they want to take. Very cut and dry, very straightforward. Sadly, that's the way it is with highly academic places, and that includes the UK, Singapore, some Hong Kong institutions, some Japanese ones as well. All they care about is that brain in the chair that they're going to come, or they're going to bring into the classroom. Now, this is an interesting portion here. This is the more kind of US process. Canada uses something similar. The Netherlands and some other kind of countries in the world use something similar to this. So your student essay is in the middle. And you're trying to create an image of you as an individual and as a person. The teacher recommendations on the other side, as well as the counselor rec, do different things. So the teacher recommendation, and you'll see kind of here on the right hand of your screen or the left hand of your screen, kind of talks about where your balance is, how you talk to people, still talks about your bright ideas and the discussions you've had, okay, as well as kind of all that academic puzzles and knowledge that you're supposed to bring. So finding a teacher that will be able to kind of give those different images is really great. The counselor recommendation, on the other hand, is all that background, okay? I may not necessarily know you in the classroom, but I know everything else you do. So all those different things, that is how a university rep is going to take a look at it and then build on that. They're going to want to try to look as many images as they can to recreate that image for you. Okay. So when they're reviewing your recommendation letters, they're trying to see that's a solid image there, that's a solid image there. I want them in my university. I want them to take part in my university. They're going to try to bring that forward. And your essay is kind of that beautiful flower right in the middle that's showing or that's showcasing kind of everything else over there. So you have to be able to do your work in line with everybody else. Okay? Which kind of brings me to the nuts and bolts. Check to see what the university is asking for. Sometimes you can even print those out those requirements and give them to your teacher for a recommendation. MIT, for instance, on their website actually has this little sheet that you can actually print and bring to your reference writer. And it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. It allows the reference writer to then keep in mind the context in which you're applying for and really use it to help you out. Don't worry. Don't feel like you're embarrassing them or having no knowledge about it. This is really great for you, especially because a lot of local teachers or your teachers don't have the time to actually do that. Give them that information. Okay. Do give your teacher at least 1 week to write. When I am writing references, I can usually churn a good one out in about 3 hours. But that's me, and I'm focused, and I've been doing this a really long time, and I get this done. Teachers have a lot of other things to do. So they might do a paragraph here, a line there, give them about a week. So please don't ask them the night before the deadline that you need a reference because it's not going to work out. Do share your essays with your teachers. I think your teachers would appreciate understanding your thinking and kind of how you want to shape that. Okay? And that's a really important thing, how to demonstrate to your teachers that this is what I'm passionate about. And that might even prompt them to think, oh, I want to add this because it might be something I really, really want to share with the university. So think about that. The last thing in these nuts and bolts is do not ask to see a letter of recommendation. Do not. Especially in terms of the US, in your Common App, you're supposed to waive your right to see your reference. Why is this so important? US universities, especially, or North American universities, kind of have this idea in mind that, well, if a teacher's allowed to speak their mind, they're going to tell me the most honest thing possible about this student. If you've chosen the right teacher, that teacher is just going to talk about the best things about you. So there's really nothing to worry about. The problem with the whole idea of not waiving your right to see a reference is that there might be collusion. There might be a lie on top of a lie on top of a lie. Now, I'm not saying you're going to lie or your teacher's going to lie. There are ethical practices that kind of guard against it. But there are on occasion some people that don't necessarily tell the truth. So, to be on the safe side, just don't ask to see your letter of reference. Okay? Sometimes universities check, and that just might catch you or your school out, and that's not necessarily the best thing for you guys. I'm going to leave this as an example, something for you guys to kind of take a look at. to see what it might look like in terms of writing an actual reference. No, this is not mine. No, it is not real. Or it might be real. I don't know who it is. But it's one of those things that might have been shared on many different fronts. But it gives you a good idea of what it looks like for what a good reference might be. So, hopefully, I'm within the 10 minutes time span, and I wish you all good luck in kind of deciding what your future might be.